Welcome, my friends, to Spooky True Saturdays, where I share with you personal brushes with the bizarre and supposedly real accounts from those I know. We all remember our first vehicle, how we got it, what it looked like, the nervousness and excitement of being behind the wheel alone for the first time. Tonight, our story involves just such an experience, and how it could have gone so horribly, terribly wrong. So gather round and listen well to how my uncle's first car could have been his last. My uncle bought his first car when he was a teenager, not long after he started driving. As a young man living back in the sticks, he didn't have a lot of money, so the most he could afford was a little used car. Still, after a few weeks of searching, he came across a little white Ford car that was in his price range, and he was quite proud of the find. He happily showed off the little car to all and sundry, and his friends and family were very happy for his next step toward adulthood. At least, most were. Granny, however, had a strange feeling about the little car. She didn't know why, but the moment she saw her son pull into the driveway with it, it made her feel uneasy. She figured at first that it might be logical. Her son had a strong thrill-seeker streak, and now that he no longer had a trained driver sitting next to him watching his every move, he liked to push the limits of his first vehicle. Granny didn't know exactly how fast he was driving, but she had heard enough from the neighbors who he didn't realize was watching him to know she had raised a little speed demon. One night, however, she had a strange dream that set her on edge. In the dream, she and her husband were racing up the road not far from their house. She could feel an overwhelming sense of urgency that she needed to get to her son. Soon, they turned a corner and saw a horrific sight. The little white car was now mangled nearly beyond recognition, with pieces of it scattered hither and thither across the road. Somehow, she just knew that the car belonged to her son and leapt out of the truck almost before her husband could stop it. Granny ran toward the wreck, shouting my uncle's name, when she noticed that the blood was smeared so thickly across the pavement that it reminded her of when she had seen a deer's carcass dragged by a commercial truck. The smear led all the way up to the wreck. She ran around the remains of the car, looking about, shouting for my uncle, but she couldn't find him. All she knew was that she couldn't find him, and that the remnants of the car was propped against the embankment in such a way that there was no getting into it without help. Thankfully, when she awoke, my uncle was still in one piece and snoozing in his room, the same as most every other night of his life. Though the nightmare upset her and played on the uneasiness she already had, for once, she kept the dream to herself. That in itself was unusual, as even though Granny can be a bit of a worrywart, she had a feeling it wasn't just the misgivings of a mother turning her child loose behind the wheel of a car. In fact, Granny and quite a few other people she knew had experienced warning dreams before, so it wouldn't have been strange to tell everyone. Still, it was her son's first car, and she didn't want to have him get rid of it as soon as he got it, not with how excited he was. So she kept the dream to herself. for a little while. A couple of weeks later, a friend of my uncle's came over to visit along with his parents. While the men and teenagers went off in their own groups, Granny and the young man's mother went their own way. They chit-chatted a bit as Granny led her around the yard, showing her some of her husband's latest improvements on the property and how some of the flowers and herbs were coming along. Eventually, as they drew closer to the barn, Granny noticed her companion had stopped and was staring at my uncle's car with a troubled expression. Granny, of course, asked her what was wrong. Unsurprisingly, the woman talked about her own unease at my uncle's speedster ways and how she was worried about their boys flying about in that car when no one was there to keep an eye on them. Not as expected was the woman recounting a dream she had only a few nights before. Now, while my uncle and this woman's son had been friends for a very long time, Granny and his mother were by no means close. She wasn't abrasive or anything, just that their paths never seemed to cross that much outside of the occasional visit or school function, so most of their talk pertained solely to keeping their boys out of mischief. That means that, while this woman might have assumed that Granny was nervous about how her own son flew, she didn't know to what extent. So when this woman described almost the exact same dream that Granny had not long before, it nearly bowled my grandmother over. After a bit of back and forth on the details, Granny finally admitted the dream she had, and the two women nearly had a simultaneous panic attack. Granny realized then that the dream really must have been a warning, and decided that she couldn't ignore it any longer. Telling my uncle might cost him some of his temporary happiness, but she was not willing to sacrifice his safety. After that, the two women got the rest of the families together and told them of their strangely shared dream. Granny told my uncle she wasn't going to tell him what he needed to do with the car, but pleaded that he should at least slow down quite a bit. My uncle, however, knew both women well, and knew they wouldn't have made something like that up just to scare him. You see, there was just some unspoken agreement that you didn't lie about potential warnings like that among the mountain folk we were from, so he took her warning seriously. Soon after, he sold the little car and eventually got another vehicle, much to Granny's relief. It did take him wrecking and getting skinned up and breaking a few bones from either a motorcycle or a dirt bike wreck for him to actually slow down on the road, though. But today, he's still alive and well. And Granny's vision, fortunately, never came to pass. Well, my friends, I hope you enjoyed this story. Have you ever had a dream that warned you and kept you out of impending trouble? If you did, why not share your experience in the comments below? If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell to catch your latest spooky fix the moment it comes out. And check out my Patreon page at patreon.com/Phantasmal Poppy. Thank you. Good night. And see you all real soon.